Guys, today I want us to talk. I want us to get deep into the truths of what it really means when we say that we die with Christ. I know that around Easter, a lot of people, quote a lot of scriptures about how we die with Christ so that we can resurrect with Christ, and how his death gives us life and all of that. But I want us to just talk, and this is going to be really deep. So those who are not ready for the truth, ready to face the truth, then this is not for you. This is one of those that you pass. Now, this Easter specifically for me has been an Easter where the eyes of my eyes have been opened. I did not spend it the way I usually spend Easter. I did not, experience it the way that I would have liked to. There was a definite awakening that took place within me, and a deeper revelation of what it actually means to die with Christ. Now, growing up, I've always believed that as a believer, to follow Christ is to carry the cross and to follow him, right? That means to be mocked, to be betrayed, to be to go through everything that represents the journey of the cross, in likeness to what Jesus Christ himself experienced on his way to the cross. And through all of that, I always was so convinced that I understood what that meant. And I always felt that I was consistently laying myself down, dying with Christ. And so a lot of us are lost or do not even realize what it really means to die with Christ. Now, a lot of us think that to die with Christ is to, stop sinning, to, die from the desires that we have. Perhaps, if I can put it that way, to switch off what I would like, and replace it with what God wants. And usually that's surface level. That has to do with, maybe the way, we interact with people, the way we socialize, and all of that. But dying with Christ is so much deeper than that. It is, many levels deeper. And so if we look at the life of Jesus Christ as our example, his whole life, he led, his life in a specific manner, being submissive to the will of God and being submissive until the point of death. Now, when we are leading our daily lives, when we are leading our lives in submission to God's laws, God's dictates, following his commandments, following the unction of his spirit, following the guidance of his spirit, that is submission to God's will. But when we talk of death, it's a different thing. Now, allow me to open your eyes a little bit. Let's get a little bit deeper. Now, when Jesus Christ died, what died is his right to live. Now, see, when we start talking about the right to live, we are talking about what is rightfully ours, meaning what is meant for us or what we deserve. So when Jesus Christ laid down his life, he had a right to live. He had a right to live. He was not sick. He was, he had the right to live. There was no limitation on his life. He was taking his life, his free will to live, and he put it down. And so a lot of us, when we want to say we die with Christ, we don't understand that we are saying that we put down our right to live. Okay, now I've got your attention. Let me get deeper. When Job, for example, lost his children, He lost his assets. He lost his wealth. He lost his health. When he lost everything, the first thing that he said was that God has given, God has taken. May God be praised. But he continued to say something that reveals that he was laying down his right to live. He said, "Can I accept the good from God and not accept the bad?" He was saying that if I can accept the life that comes from God, surely I can also accept the bad that comes with that life. Okay, I'm about to get deep. Pay attention, I don't want to lose you. Job understood that the measure which God had blessed him with was unlimited. The heavens were smiling upon him. Everything was working in his favor. Everything was good and unlimited for him when God was giving him good. So when the reverse was applied, he understood that my right to live, my right to all the good things, my right to health, to comfortability, my right to stability, my right to whatever it is that represents life to you, can also easily be revoked, or rather, it can also be overtaken by the bad. In what way? Okay, understand this. We cannot claim to die with Christ with things that don't really affect us or that don't really kill us or get us to a point of inner death where you feel like I'm not living anymore. I can't survive anymore. I can't make it past this anymore. And so when you have laid down your life, you have the right. Remember, when you have the right, when it's a choice, you can at any point tap out and be like, no, I'm not doing this anymore, because it's a choice, right? That's why Jesus Christ said, Lord, I would really not like to do this, but not my will, let your will be done. There was a choice. He could have said, oh no, Lord, I cannot go through with this. But the fact of having that option to say, Lord, I'm done. Like, this is it. I'm not sacrificing past this point. In other words, to lay down your right to life is to say, I have the option. I can actually stop all of this pain. I can stop what I'm going through right now. I can stop, I can change my mind right now. And all of this torture, this torment, this pain would stop. Remember when Job was going through everything, his wife, his friends, all of them said, curse God and just die. End this misery, end this pain. They were saying, you've got a choice. You can tap out of this. You don't have to continue going through with this. And he laid down his right to live, his right to tap out. Remember, your right to life is to say you can tap out anytime. Like, for example, if you're in a wrestling match and they say if you feel like you can't handle the pressure, you're allowed to tap out. That means you have a right to life. You have a right to stop. That very fact that you can stop it at any time, that very fact that you can quit, that very fact that you can say, you know what, I don't want to be part of this anymore. I give up. I can't handle this anymore. That fact that you can do that means you have a right to life, because you have a right to stop it. You have you have the power to stop it. You have the choice to stop it. Situations that come our way that are out of our control, that is not us dying with Christ. Those situations are trials and challenges that come our way to perfect us, to complete the work that God is doing within us. But us dying with Christ is a choice. It is a sacrifice. It is understanding that I don't have to do it, but I want to do it, and I will do it. It is suffering for Christ. It is choosing to lay your life down for the slaughter, and knowing very well that I have a choice to stop it. I'll give you a good example. Like I said, with me, being, in the prophetic office, it's not an easy office to be in. The trials, the challenges that we go through are, wow, they are something else. And there are days where you feel like, man, if I could just take this title, give it away, stop, preaching, just be a normal average person, half of the challenges that I'm going through, I would not even have to go through. The insults, the attacks, the fights, the judgment, and all of that. I wouldn't even have to go through it if I was an ordinary person. And so I could stop it. I could stop the pain. I could stop the mocking. I could stop the judging. And yet not stopping, not giving up, not stopping despite the pain, the losses, and everything. There's constantly opportunities to head out. There's always an off ramp, and never choosing that off ramp, never taking it. Even on the worst days, that is dying with Christ. That is giving up your right to life, your right to the good things, your right to comfort, your right to peace, your right to friendships, your right to relationships, your right to everything. Because when you lay down your life, literally you lay down your life. It affects your friendships, it affects your relationships, it affects your peace. Like when you're praying with people don't even know that we carry those things on our shoulders. And so many people walk into it thinking it's surface level, thinking it's the little things, thinking, oh man, if I just have to stop going to that party or stop doing that, but I can still continue doing that and whatever. Laying your life down, dying for God, is putting your right to a lot of things down and saying, although I have a right to this, I will sit through the suffering, the sacrifice, the sharpening, and everything. I'll handle it until I can't handle it anymore, and then I'll still continue to handle it. That is dying with Christ, because at that point in time you are saying, Lord, if I had a choice, which I do, I would stop all of this, but at this point in time I give up my right, I give up my will for your will to be done. Not my will, let your will be done. And many of us need to understand that, just like Peter, really, when we start, it's like, oh man, I can do it. I can lay down my life. But when the pressure is on, when you can feel that, oh man, this is getting deeper and harder and tougher and tighter, and I feel like I can't breathe and I can't do this. I'm losing my sanity. I'm losing my peace. Everybody hates me. I've lost everything. And why am I even doing this at that point in time? And then you deny him. You're like, no, I don't know. I don't know what you guys are talking about. And you deny him because you realize at that point that dying with him is not exactly what I thought it would be. Because when Peter said, oh, Lord, whatever they do to me, they can do to me. I'll die with you. He just thought it's going to be like simple boom, boom, pam. When he saw the crowds and he saw and heard what they were like, the torment, just that vibe of people ganging up against you, like in large numbers, agreeing against you, mocking you, spitting on you, beating you. It's the journey to that cross that is like, I didn't sign up for this. Oh God, I will serve you, but I did not sign up for this, because it keeps getting worse and worse and worse and deeper and harder and tighter and man, it never stops. It never stops. The intensity just gets harder and harder. And the closer you get to the cross, your body starts to feel it. Your mind starts to feel it. Your pocket starts to feel it. Your kids start to feel it. Your partner starts to feel it. You feel it. That is to die with Christ. Remember, Jesus was not killed, but he gave up his breath. He gave up his right to breathe. He gave up his right to oxygen. And so when you say you're dying with him, you're giving up. You have the right to breathe. Oh, yes, you have the right to eat. You have the right to drive a fancy car. You have the right to have the best things in life. You have a right to, this and to that. You give up your right to oxygen. That thing that makes you feel like I can breathe. That money that gives you that financial freedom. When God is saying, hey, I need you to stop working. That right to life, the right that you have, and you just lay it down and you say, not my will, but your will be done. Now that is death. That is dying with Christ. And the more people come against you, or not come against, but continuously offer you ways out and reassure you that no, man, it's really not that bad if you just give up, or if you try. It's not really giving up. It is giving up, because to die with Christ is to say, not my will but your will. It's to say, I've got the right to stop this, I've got the option to stop this, but I promise not to interfere with your will. And that is why even when they came to seize him, he restored the ear that was cut off, because he said it has to be done. This is how it has to be done. Meaning that even when they were beating him, when they were spitting on him, he could have easily stopped it. At any given point in time, he had authority, he had power, he had an army waiting on his command. He could have stopped it, and he didn't. And so Job says, though he slay me, I will trust him. Though I don't make it out of this alive, I will continue to trust him. How many of us trust him seeing that it is going to death, seeing that it is not going to end the way that we thought it would, or the way that we would have preferred it to end? How many of us speak like Job? Job was in a situation where there was no turnaround in sight. He was on a highway. There was no way he could get off that highway. There was no end in sight. And that's why his friends and his wife were advising him as they were advising him, because they were like, the situation, and lo and behold, just at the nick of it all, the nick of time, God changed his story and restored everything back to him. Because your willingness to die is what gives you life. That is why Jesus says, he who lays down his life for my sake will gain it. But he who holds on to his life will lose it. Holding on to your right to life, holding on to your right to comfort, to your right to wealth, or whatever it is what is delaying you and is what is costing you your life. But letting it go and laying it down for God is what gives it back to you, is what gives you life. That is the ticket to life. Allowing yourself and your right to life, your right to comfort, your right to luxury, your right to wealth, your right to whatever, it is that you feel you have the right to have. And so I think the question we should all ask ourselves is, when we say we die with Christ, when we say we will die with Christ, do we understand what that means? Do we fully understand what that entails? And when the going gets tough, the closer you get to that crucifixion, the closer you get to that seat, to that place where God has appointed you for, are you not going to be like Peter and be like, no, this is not what I signed up for. I don't know this man. Would you not turn your back on what God has called you to do? Will you see it through to the end? Will you be like Job and say, though he slay me, I will trust him? So before we rush to talk about our inheritance, before we rush to talk about, resurrecting with Christ, rising with Christ and what that means for us, did you die? To resurrect, you must have died. To be raised from the dead, you must have died. And that death must be you laying down your right to life by choice, sacrificing, putting it down, knowing that at any given point in time, you have the right to tap out and yet not tapping out, hanging in there until the appointed time for the reward. That is the thing that I want you to think about. It's deep, I know, and it's not what a lot of people want to hear, but it's the truth.